So that works. All right. Welcome back. There's my stats, the three of you. Welcome back to Minton history. I'm going to get right into it. As far as the lesson goes, I'll probably edit the last couple minutes out so that we can get going. This week, it's perfect. Everything is working out so perfectly. We ended the year in March talking about the Black Plague. Then, here we are at the French Revolution, which happened right after the American Revolution. And now look what's happening. stinking civil unrest. Power up, Powerade. This video is sponsored by Gatorade. Gatorade, call me. With all my views, I'll get these kids drinking your stuff in no time. All right. French Revolution, right after the American Revolution. Lots of what I call civil unrest, which means people are angry with inside the borders. There's not a war. The French Revolution will have a war. I was on the Facebooks earlier today. Not proud to say that, but a fellow teacher at FHS was talking about civil unrest, right? So somebody else posted on his about how the current protesters are rioters and looters and they're the worst and they don't indiscriminately destroy property. So I had to jump in. I can't let people be wrong about history, can I? So I had to jump in. And I posted a primary source of how Thomas Hutchinson was the tax collector in Boston. Yo, before they burnt down his house, they looted it of all his alcohol. They took the wallpaper down. They took all his documents and books. They even started disassembling his roof. All right? So, that's the kind of thing we're going to talk about today. Violence and civil unrest. That's kind of the national discussion right now. Should Target get looted? Don't know. Depends on what is what. We're going to take a look at something called the Committee for Public Safety, which is going to be a body of people after the French Revolution. They're going to overthrow their king, and they're going to be in charge of making sure that everybody's still revolutionary. All right, so we'll get right into it regarding that. I'm going to switch over to this. Where's it at? One right here. Boom. And there's the lesson plan. Before we get into this specific lesson plan, I'm going to give you some key events of the French Revolution. You're going to look through that, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. I have it's one of the best documentaries that I show every year. I've taught this years and years, and the best one is loaded up on mintonhistory.org on the weekly schedule. You're going to give that a watch. It's going to give you a great background to help you really knock this assignment out of the park. Let me read this one right here, and I'll give you some background on it. Foreign armies were not the only enemies of the French Republic. Stop. I'll see you over at camera. Look, there's even camera 3. Maybe not. I'll hit you up over here. So, way before all this, we talked a little bit about what was the last thing we did? The Enlightenment. Everybody should be free to do what they want. Nobody should tell you what to do. Even still, there were still kings that tried to tell people what to do. This French king, Louis the 16th, he wasn't a very good king, and the price of bread was going up. People were being mistreated in the cities and in the country, and that's when people had had enough. They knew that the French king was living lavish lives, blah, 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 right? They were all just doing fine while the peasants and other people were starving to death. So people got angry. They started marching in to Paris. The big event there is called the Storming of the Bastille, July 14th, 1789. They freed prisoners. People who were put in jail for political reasons, they went in there and kicked them out. Those of you who are Assassin's Creed fans know that in Unity, there's a level on it. I should play the level and post it. It's a good idea. Or maybe just post a video of somebody else playing it. I don't know. I should do that. Anyway, they're going to free all these political prisoners. The army's called out to defend Paris. And this goes on for a year or so. Then finally, the mobs get a hold of the king. He runs away from Paris, and they find him and chop his head off with what's called a guillotine. And they chop his head off, then they chop the queen's head off. It's crazy. Before all that, they had this big meeting on a tennis court, and all the main dudes in charge of the revolution, not the nobles or the kings, or any of those guys, but guys who had made themselves rich off, selling stuff or being lawyers and stuff like that. That middle class of people that we've been talking about. They declare what's called the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen, and they have this list of things. If we were in school, this would be a 1 or 2 day lesson, but we got to get right to it. They got this list of demands, essentially, of how the government should be treating people, and it reflects the Voltaire, the John Locke stuff we studied last week. It's all about how everybody should have an equal shot at life, and it sounds and looks a lot like our Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson was in France while this was written, so this is all kind of connected. It's kind of Declaration of Rights of Man by French by French middle class featuring Thomas Jefferson. What's this? Featuring Thomas Jefferson. It's a banger track. All right. So they write this big declaration, and there's going to be 3 parts to this new government. There's a part who are already kind of in charge. They give them some vote, which they were supposed to have the vote under the king anyway. And then they put the common people, and they put some of the church in charge. And this all sounds very nice, but it kind of falls apart, and that's what we're going to look at. Now, the main dude in charge of everything... Oh, here, check it. Check it down here. We're back to me and window. Here it is. Check out this rest of the first paragraph. The Jacobins, that's how English people say it. I love this unit because I get to say French words. Like, Jacobin. I don't know if that's how you say it. Had thousands of enemies within France itself. Those are the guys who wanted the revolution, the Jacobins. These included peasants who were horrified by the king's execution, priests who would not accept government control, and rival leaders who were stirring up rebellion in the provinces. So they have a whole big revolution, but there's still people not happy with it while they're trying to be in charge. How to contain and control these enemies became a central issue, and your main dude, Maximilien Robespierre, he's going to slowly gain power. And he wants to build what's called Republic of Virtue. And he's going to try to wipe out anything historical about France. Any kings, any religion. He even changes the name of the days of the week. Firm believers in reason, they changed the calendar, dividing the year into 12 months of 30 days and renaming each month. Thermidor is my favorite because it's really hot. That's what they call it, Thermidor. Who's looking at this movie? Who is that? Beyonce. That's good super student stuff right there. So Robespierre's going to get control. We're scrolling down. They rename stuff. They close all the churches. They're dragging priests out into the street and beating them up. Robespierre becomes the leader of what's called the Committee of Public Safety. This is literally a table, and you'll see it in the documentary. It's literally a table of 12 dudes sitting around making all the decisions to try to handle what's going on. The Committee of Public Safety's chief task, I'm right here, if I can, there it goes, was to protect the revolution from its enemies. Under Robespierre, they had these enemies tried in the morning, right? Guilty! Time for lunch. After lunch, they were guillotined in that afternoon. Robespierre justified his use of terror by suggesting that it helped French citizens to remain true to the ideals of the revolution. Thousands of people were also sent to their death, often on the flimsiest of charges. One kid had cut down a tree. 40, perhaps as many as 40,000 were executed during the terror. 85% of them were peasants or members of the poor middle class, for whose benefit the revolution had been launched. This is literally out of this book right here. Let's see if it's the same page. What page? 226. The teacher's edition here. Nope. It's behind. Nationals. Oh, yeah, there it is. 217. 221. There it is. Wait. Reform and Terror. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. So the question here is, these guys are going to use organized and eventually highly organized violence to achieve their goals of 3. Let me write them down. I got my board here. I'm excited. Where's my marker, y'all? There it is. 3 things. I'm going to say them in English. liberty, right? Freedom to do what you want. Liberty. Oh, equality. Jeez. The camera makes me nervous. Everybody's free. Everybody's equal. We looked at that in the Enlightenment. And my favorite, fraternity. Brotherhood. So these are the main ideals of the French Revolution. When they cut off the king's head, this is what they were going for. But eventually, a lot of people get their heads cut off for these reasons. And we're trying to figure out if that kind of violence is justified for these things. Was there people not having these things? Does that justify any violence here? And you know it goes across cultures and time too, doesn't it? All right. We got 2 documents and some questions for each document. I'm going to go through document A first. Let me head over to here. Go over document A first. The committee, after this revolution, there's no more king, and oh my gosh, how many viewers do I have? 4. Yes. Quitting my day job. All right. Look at the ketchup. Is about 5 seconds behind. Ready to drink? In 1793, they had an angry and hungry population. So people had their liberty, equality, and fraternity, right? They had this, but they was hungry. What good is this if you hungry, right? The revolution hadn't really kept up. The new government really wasn't keeping its promises. It was trying to feed people, but there wasn't enough grain. In fact, there was a what's it called? Famine. You know, there was a famine which naturally happened and made things even worse. Sound familiar? All right, here are the rules. Monopoly is a capital crime. All right, when you monopolize something, if you've played Monopoly, the only way that game ends is if you own everything and are able to charge whatever you want. Excuse my hat hair. And so, let's say you're in a town outside of Paris and there's only one guy selling bread. What do you think the price of that bread's going to be? But if you have a couple people selling bread, like Adam Smith said before, then everybody does well. Those who keep out of circulation essential merchandise or commodities or essential workers without offering them for sale daily and publicly are declared guilty of monopoly. Here's what it means to be guilty of monopoly. You have essential things, but you're not selling them every day and in public. Yo, I heard he's got a whole barn full of bread, but he's not selling it. Let's go get him. The government did that, okay? So much for keeping your hands off, huh? Can everybody hear me okay? I could hear myself. I can see my audio doing that. There we go. What's up, Brandon? Thanks for showing up. We're going to do a quizzes after this, too, so tell people. I'll give points out to people who do quizzes as well. Here are the essential commodities, right? Bread, meat, wine, grain, flour, vegetables, fruit, butter, vinegar, cider. These are all things you can cook with too, right? Brandy, that's alcohol. Charcoal, burn stuff to cook with. Tallow is like, it helps you burn stuff, I think. Wood, oil, soap, soda. Soda is baking soda. Soap and salt, and even a little bit more. These are all things you need to live, and they're making laws against people hoarding that. Please only buy 1 or 2 packages of toilet paper apiece. Those who have any of these shall be required to declare them and sell them. 1 week from today, oh snap, those who have not declared their goods shall be considered monopolists, and as such punished with death. Their property shall be confiscated, and their commodities or merchandise shall be placed on sale. Dang! These convicted of making false declarations, if you lie about this, you'll also be punished with death. Public officials who protect monopolists will also be punished with death. All right. There's some stuff at the bottom there. Capital punishment is death by decree. Yep. Local government commodities, things that can be bought or sold. All right. So this is a primary source. You can see it here. Decree against profiteers. Hey, everybody, we had a revolution. Don't store all the stuff for yourself while we sort this out. Is that worth the death penalty? That's what I'm going to ask you. All right, scroll down, scroll down. If you haven't already, give it a pause to read document B. Ready? Pause. All right. By September of 1793, they're now afraid of a foreign invasion. Because what happened was they cut off the king's head. The king is like related to a bunch of other ones around them in the other countries. And the other countries are like, if we let France be a democratic republic, then our country's going to want to do that. I'm looking at the microphone like a weirdo. Then our country's going to want to do that. And we can't have that. So they're going to start marching into France, trying to prohibit them from their things. What's up, Glare? All right, check out. This is the law of suspects, which established revolutionary courts to try anyone suspected of treason against the revolution. Immediately after the publication of the present decree, all suspected persons within the territory of the Republic, France, everybody in France, and still at liberty, shall be placed in custody. If we suspect you, we're putting you in the jail. Here are the suspected persons. They act, talk with, or write, and have shown themselves to be enemies of, liberty. These great things we talked about in the Enlightenment. Those who are unable to justify their means of existence and the performance of their civic duties. Dang! Are you working? And are you contributing to the revolution? Those whom certificates of patriotism have been refused. What? You gotta have a piece of paper? Interesting. Public officials suspended or dismissed from their positions by the National Convention, that's the government, by its commissioners and not reinstated. Right? If you got fired, don't get caught. Any former nobles, husband, wives, fathers, mothers, sons or daughters, brothers or sisters, or of émigrés who have not steadily demonstrated their devotion to the revolution, right? So if you're against our ideals, we put you in jail. It's crazy. But you have to figure out if what the French people went through beforehand, in their fight for liberty, equality, and fraternity, I'm scrolling way too much. Liberty, equality, and fraternity, was it worth the violence they're going to put on these people? They're cutting heads off and putting people in jail for being against the revolution. Now, what does that mean for today? I am going to put up a flip grid about what's going on today. Let me just give you a rundown of what happened if you haven't been paying attention. You've been on Snapchat the whole time. Minneapolis police. A policeman put his knee on the back of the neck of a black man in Minneapolis. I can't remember if it's George Lloyd or George Floyd. My apologies. He did it for 9 minutes. The man died. Right? This is not the first time a police officer has seemingly been responsible for the death of a black man, where it seems like that person being arrested was trying to do the right thing after being accosted by the police. Now, whatever that is, there are people in the streets in our country who are doing one of three things. Most of them, I believe, at least from what I can tell, are protesting peacefully. They're walking down the street, holding a sign. There's a lot of cases where the police are just watching it happen, and they go about their day. Other people are doing what's called rioting. What's a riot, you ask? A riot is when things get violent. You start swinging at police, pushing, and then the police get back after it, and then everybody gets going, and there's violence. That's not a peaceful protest. That's a riot. And I guarantee you some people who are rioting believe it to be justified. And then there's people who are looting. The Target in Minneapolis looted. There's people running out with all the greatest and latest stuff they want. The sad part is that some people are looting like their neighbor's store, you know. So that's something to figure out, and this is why we study stuff like the French Revolution. Is the violence that's happening worth measure up to or equal the oppression that it's fighting? Is cutting off the heads of 40,000 people worth the freedom of this entire country then and beyond? Is the kind of things that's going on in our streets today, even with a pandemic, is that measure up to, is it the same as what's happening to our African American fellow citizens in this country? Here's the world, kids, take it. So that's what we got to figure out. So I'm going to ask you in your flip grid to look at a couple things specifically about the French Revolution. I'm going to ask you specific about this activity. And then I'll ask you to transfer that knowledge into what we're studying or what we're seeing today on our screens. What's going on in each of one of the cities. In fact, at 2 p.m. today in Fitchburg, there's going to be a demonstration. I don't know where, downtown somewhere. And I bet it's going to be peaceful. So, some of you got 4 years. I mean, if you're out of your house and this happens outside your house, you have to decide, is this a type of thing you want to be a part of? And then if you are a part of it, what decisions are you going to make in the middle, in the heat of that moment? When I see all these people protesting and rioting and looting, any of those three, it's great to know, even the police on the other side, it's great to know that each one of them have an idea of what this is in their own lives. Everybody on the streets thinks that everybody deserves this. It's just to what degree are we willing to fight for it, or what degree are we willing to not fight for it? So, there's the world. Suddenly my class is really meaningful now, isn't it? Watch the documentary. You'll understand the plight of the French people. Before this, I'll put some more resources up on mintonhistory.org so you can understand how bad the French people had it before the revolution and how important it was to them that the revolution be handled in the right way. And then hopefully you'll be able to make an educated decision, like in real life, that will mean something to you and that will make a difference. All right, how long have I been going here? 30 minutes? That's all right. That's how long it's supposed to be. Get this done right here on the document. I think I provided you a copy for it. You're going to turn it in. You're going to add it to Google Classroom and turn it in. Watch the documentary. Let's get on with the quiz is. I don't know how many people are watching, but we'll do that. I'm going to end the live stream now. And we'll do the quizzes if you're still with me. I will post the quiz is in the link in the comments here. Here's my do now. That's how much of a creature of routine I am. I have to have a do now. Quizzes. My quizzes. Reign of Terror. Play live. Classic. I just need the link. Or share via link. Alright, here comes the link in the comments. I was using that video to answer the assignments this week. Yeah, you did. Once I see people on the quizzes, I'll end the stream. Next week, I think we'll take a look at... Could do Napoleon. We got to do a lot of stuff. We'll see how far I can get. But I think we're going to do the Haitian Revolution because there's a lot of interest in the Caribbean around our way. So we're going to talk about how the Haitians took care of business. Join my game, y'all. I'll wait about 3 minutes. I'll post a link on Classroom too. Joel Mateo. All right. Get after it. I'm going to end the stream. The link is also on Google Classroom. Here we are working. Be safe out there. Wear your mask. Don't go anywhere. And stay tuned for updates on the fall. I don't know anything. Don't ask me.